Alright, so today we're going to be doing Unit 6, Quadratic Expressions and Equations, specifically Lesson 1, which is Introduction to Quadratics. So this standard is going to be for a function that models a relationship between two quantities, interpret key features of graphs. So standard form of a quadratic equation is known by y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. You remember looking that up for the last worksheet we did? Continuing on. Alright, so when graphed, a quadratic equation creates a U-shaped curve called a parabola. Parabola. So this says, use Desmos to sketch the following graphs. So we're going to pretend that we use Desmos to sketch the following graphs, okay? So we sketch our graph, and it's going to look something like this. Okay. All right. So this parabola over here is not going to be a U-shape. This one is going to be an upside-down U-shape. And my pen's going wild today. But it's going to be an upside-down U-shape like this. So if the a value is the coefficient in front of the x squared. If that number is positive, then the parabola opens upward and creates a smiley face shape. And if your a value is negative, see how this a value here is negative? Yes, it opens downward instead, and now it's a frowny face. So that's how you can tell if your parabola is going to be a smile or a frown, is based on that number in front of the x squared. If that number is negative, it's a frown. If it's positive, it is a smiley face.
I remember earlier and then my whole day.
Yeah, we always have a million things going on. All right. So, moving on to the next section of the notes. So, what is the axis of symmetry? Well, the axis of symmetry, also it's often abbreviated as A.O.S, so AOS, is a vertical line that divides the parabola into two congruent halves. It is a vertical line that divides the parabola into two congruent halves. Now the formula for the axis of symmetry is known by x equals negative b over 2 times a, so 2a. So that's the formula for the axis of symmetry. And then the vertex is the point where the parabola and axis of symmetry meet. So the vertex is the point where the parabola and the axis of symmetry meet. We have practiced this on when you guys last had me on Thursday, and we did that worksheet and we labeled the vertex and the axis of symmetry and all that. And you saw that the vertex is where the axis of symmetry touches that shape graph, that U shape, right? So that's what the vertex is. So when the vertex is at the lowest point on the graph, it's called a minimum. Okay, it's called a minimum. And when the vertex is at the highest point on the graph,
maximum.
Good, it is maximum. Good, so the vertex is either a maximum or a minimum. So quadratic graphs can have a maximum or a minimum. They will never have both. Okay, the vertex is either one or the other based on how it's shaped. So let's go through and find our first axis of symmetry and vertex, and then we're going to sketch the parabola. So I'm not as concerned about the sketch because we can use Desmos, but we have to practice working with the numbers. So we have to look at what we call standard form to identify A, B, and C. So what is the coefficient? What's the number in front of this x squared?
1.
Good, it's a 1. So your A value, we say that our A value is 1. My pen's just not cooperating today. But the A value is 1, okay? And this value is your B value, the coefficient in front of the x term, which is?
8.
Good, it's 8.
I know the last one, C, is 15, because I know that's solving because it's going to be okay, equals and negative, it's going to be by, first one is.
Yes, so this is your C value right here. So the C value is what we call the constant, C for constant, and that's the value that doesn't have a variable associated with it. A variable is a letter. Okay, it doesn't have a variable associated with it, so this is our C value.
Okay, well, first one is, it was negative on top, it will be C by 15.
I love how they intercepted the sheep, right? They got an interception under that. And they still went on the flag on the dude that got intercepted.
Computer's glitching up, so I can't even.
Like at that point, hard. Like that shit though. Y'all literally just got to have to literally just
Okay, there we go. I know, he must have unmuted, but I was, What? Yeah, it was a student unmuted. I couldn't really understand what they're saying. Alright, so now we're going to move on to plugging into the axis of symmetry formula. And my computer is running so slow today, I can't even get anything to work. So, I know.
I didn't have any problems with it.
I always have problems with my computer. So what is our B value again? 8. So it goes here. So negative 8, plugging it in, over 2 times, what's your A value? 1. So if your B value is already negative and you plug it in, it's going to become positive. And if your B value is positive, it's going to become negative. So when you plug into the formula, it's always going to change sign. Okay? This is very important because this is what you're going to be doing on your worksheet. Okay? So you have to practice it now because you're going to have to try it on your own on the worksheet. So what's 2 times 1?
2.
Good.
Needs to be like negative 8 divided by 2 equals negative 4.
Good. Negative 8 divided by 2 is the end result, which is negative 4. So our axis of symmetry is x equals negative 4. So as we continue on to the next page, we're continuing with the same example, okay? We have the axis symmetry. We found the axis symmetry to be negative 4. So we're going to move on to the next page. Is everybody ready? So we just found our axis symmetry on the previous page, and it came out to be negative 4. So we're going to fill in that gap right there. That's just what we just found on the last page. That's where I got that from. You guys with me? Okay. So then, the next step to find the vertex is to plug your axis of symmetry into the original equation. So our original equation was y equals x squared plus 8x plus 15. What did we do here with this equation? Why is it blank? What are we replacing? All of the x values. We're replacing it with our axis of symmetry that we just found. So that's why we removed all the x's so we can replace it with our axis of symmetry. So our axis of symmetry is negative 4. So I'm going to take out the x's in my original equation, and I'm going to replace those with negative 4. Now my goal is to simplify, and remember we have to use our order of operations here. So order of operations, parentheses come first. There's nothing inside the parentheses to solve, so I move on to E, which is? Good. What's negative 4 times negative 4, aka negative 4 squared?
He went to the restroom and he's taking about a minute.
Alex. It should be. So what is negative 4 times negative 4?
Positive 16.
Positive 16. What's 8 times negative 4?
Negative 32.
Negative 32. And then we just bring down the 15 at the end, right?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to just subtraction and addition, they're equal operations, so we just go from left to right. So if you're not sure, you can always use a calculator here. 16 minus 32 is
Negative 16.
negative 16.
And one more is negative 16 plus 15 be negative 1.
Good. So we finish it off. Negative 16 plus 15 is negative 1.
Yep. It's not funny. You've been asking me, I'm just gonna yell and screaming like. Shut up, Dad.
You can sit in your assigned seat, which isn't there.
Where's my seat again?
Oh gosh, I don't remember now until I have. Yeah, I think it's up here.
Dangerous.
All right. So now we're gonna move into the vertex. Okay. So the vertex is always whatever your axis of symmetry is, -4, comma, the y value that you just found. And this is what we call our vertex. It should always be an ordered pair. It's not a vertex if it's not an ordered pair. Okay? So as for the sketch, I'm going to have you guys try this on your own after we finish because you guys can use, I want you to practice using Desmos. So what you're going to do the sketch is you're going to do y equals x squared plus 8x plus 15. That's the original equation. And then you're also going to, on a separate line, do the axis of symmetry. And you're going to plot those two things and you're going to get a sketch. Okay, and that's for you to practice using Desmos because I really want you guys this year to become proficient with Desmos. It's a really useful tool to know how to use. All right, so what is my a value for number 2? 1. Not 1, but do you guys see why it's a -1? See that negative sign in front of the x squared?
-1. I mean, the b was positive 10.
Good, the b is positive 10. Everybody see where the b comes from?
It comes from top for 10. And
Yes.
2 is
So what is my c value?
-2.
Good, -2.
-2.
Very good, -2. My computer is running so slow. So once you have all of that, you're going to plug that into the formula. So your b goes up here.
By 10 and 2 by the -1.
Good. So the 10 goes on the top and the -1 goes on the bottom. And we simplify. So if your b value is positive originally, it's going to become negative.
By -2.
Yep. So then 2 times -1 is -2.
It'll be positive 5.
Good. That's going to come out to be x equals positive 5 because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay? All right. Are you ready for the axis of symmetry, what we do with it? So we take our axis of symmetry, x equals 5.
Alright. Okay, now on the very last one, it'll be, well, negative will be 5 squares, and plus 10 and 5 minus 2.
Good. So we take our original equation, but we're replacing all of the x's with the axis of symmetry, which is 5.
Okay, and 5 squared by 2, it'll be -25.
Good. So let me talk about this for a second so everybody understands. So this part's really important because this is where a mistake I see often. So right here, you have to do exponents before multiplication. So you square that 5 first, then you make it negative, okay? See how the negative sign is outside of the parentheses? So that's going to make the whole thing negative at the end of that calculation. So it's going to be 5 squared, which is 25, and it's going to become a -25. And then what is 10 times 5? 50. And then we bring down the -2. Why is everybody out of their seats, guys? So then this comes out to be y equals, what's -25 plus 50?
It's been -25.
It would be a positive 25, because that's the same thing as 50 minus 25.
It'll be by 23.
So 25 minus 2 equals 23.
Yep.
So I also want you to all get practice doing these calculations in the calculator, okay? Because if you know how to use the calculator properly, you won't have to worry about figuring this out. So then we're going to find our axis of symmetry. We have our axis of symmetry. We're going to find our vertex. So that's going to be 5, 23. That's our vertex, okay? So go ahead and write that down. And now we're going to talk about the sketch. So to get the sketch, you guys are just going to take the original formula, which is y equals negative x squared plus 10x minus 2. And you're also going to plot your axis of symmetry, which is x equals 5. So you're going to plot those two things on the graph, okay? And that's going to give you your sketch. All right, so you're going to try that on Desmos. So from here, I'm going to pass out your worksheet.